So the last video on five records that I think are great that you may not know, seemed to get a little bit of traction, so I figured I'd do it again. I've said this before, but the reason I started this channel was to shine light on bands and albums that I thought never got their due. This is a series that I'll probably do a bunch of, because there's nothing more important to me in music than the incredible bands that I have either experienced live on record or both, that I never thought, or that I thought never got their due. And we all have those bands, right? Or folks who are really into music, of course have those bands. I think of Slobberbone and Marat, Slobberbone from Denton, Texas, and Marat from Philadelphia. It just gets six-string drag from, I think it was the Raleigh area. Just so many great, the Gourds, who I talked about on the last video. But here are five more records that I pulled out this morning, that I really wish more people knew about. So let's get it started. And they may not be as obscure as the last round. But the first one is Josh Rouse's 1972. I first saw Josh Rouse, I believe he was opening for Sunvolt at the Bowery Ballroom. And I was not much of a fan. This is probably, I think it was the Straightaways tour, so 97, somewhere around 96, 97. But one day, a buddy of mine, or one of my closest friends, who else, I lived in Brooklyn at the time, and so did he said, why don't you come over, we'll hang out, drink beers or something. It was like a Saturday afternoon. I went over, and he was excited to play some new music for me, and he put in Josh Rouse's Under Cold Blue Stars, which I think came out before this, or two records before this. And I was blown away. I remember I was like, who is this? And that started my interest in Josh Rouse. And this is, I think, far and away his best record. One of the best singer-songwriter records ever made. I saw him a number of times on this tour. I remember I saw him at the 92nd Street Y during like a really bad snowstorm in New York, and he played two shows and we stayed for both. We sat up front, requested songs, he played them. It was so much fun. But this, I'm gonna say, is a 10. It's a 10. It's perfect. Of the five I'm picking, this is the best one. If you like Neil Young or Jackson Browne, any singer, Dylan, it's a masterpiece. And this, there's a line, I think it's in Rise, the last song, and it's something along the lines of waiting on the F train, 30 years old and nothing's changed. So this came out in 2003. I was 30 years old, and I remember listening to that line, and it, no kidding me, had a big role in me taking some career risks that have ultimately worked out pretty well for me. I don't mean that in a cocky way. I just mean I was in New York at the time, and I was in a line of work that I was not crazy. It was like tangentially tied to the music industry, but it was just really dry. It's like licensing work. And I would play that song over and over and over. And in late 2003 or early 2004, I left my job and I worked full-time on a political campaign, and then moved out to California and sort of started anew. And I have no regrets there. It's been, I love California. I've been here just shy of 20 years. I'll probably live here for the rest of my life. But that line stuck with me. I remember just thinking, 30 years old and nothing's changed. It's time to make a change. So thank you, Josh Rouse, for that line that was very inspirational to me. And this record, again, if you don't know it, put it on. Put it on the background, put it on the car. A tremendous record. Here's a record that I think Mazzy has talked about recently, which is Gavin Brier's The Sinking of the Titanic, which I originally got on CD. Came in this nice little booklet at Amoeba Records. And then when I was in Scotland this year for the first time ever, I saw this in a record store that was right by where I was staying. And I could not believe that this was available on vinyl. So I think it was reissued 2022, so 2 years ago. I learned about this record, I'm almost positive it was an interview with Tom Waits when he discussed his favorite records of all time. And if I remember right, he either had this at number 1 or in the top 5. So I looked it up, and it is an ambient record. It's basically Gavin Brier's doing the sounds. So let's see, Gavin Brier's magnus opus, Sing a Titanic, draws a listener to a majestic world. These exquisite hymn-like recordings at once, God, some heavy words here, at once forlorn and eerily calming, were made in 1975 for Brian Eno's newly minted Obscure label, first-time vinyl reissue. This was my introduction, mostly my introduction to ambient music, and it's basically what Gavin Brier imagines the sounds were like on the Titanic in those final hours. And I remember I was dating somebody at the time when I heard about this, when I found this record. It must have been 2007 or 8. I was guessing somewhere around there. And we used to play this record just nonstop, and it's just ambient noises, but it's like really ambient noises. That didn't make sense, but it's really meditative. And I, as somebody who does meditate almost daily for my mental health, and I've been doing it for 10 years now, records like this, I often put on Brian Eno, or I haven't opened this yet because I'm just so thrilled to have it. It's a mood record. But I just absolutely love this, and I think, if I'm right, if it was Tom Waits, thank you for this recommendation. I would have never found that record on my own. Next, this reminds me of San Francisco as well. The Beulah record, The Coast is Never Clear. Power pop perfection. I think these guys were San Francisco. This came out in 2001. I'm almost positive this is a reissue, maybe not. Hello Resolven, A Good Man Is Easy to Kill, Gene Autry, just Burned by the Sun. I used to put that on mix CDs. It would start off so many different mix CDs. It's just such a great pop song. I think these guys made 3 records, 3 or 4, and that was it. Haven't heard anything. I know the lead singer put out a solo record that I liked, and then I think his name's Miles. Miles, last name starts with a K. Is it on the back? No. Incredible record. Stream it today or look for this on vinyl. Beautiful cover too. Beulah, The Coast is Never Clear, which I realized one day when I was leaving Amoeba Records must have been named after the street Beulah, which is like 2 blocks from Amoeba. And I was on the street as I was listening to the record. That was a cool experience. 2 more. Sorry, had a little pop-up there. This is the Jay Bennett and Edward Birch record, The Palace at 4 a.m. This is the record that Jay Bennett released with Edward Birch after his time in Wilco ended. Just a fantastic, it's like an Elvis Costello record, just tremendous songs. Puzzle Heart, Talk to Me, Shaken Sugar, which Jeff Tweedy did as well. My Darling, Like a Photograph, Little White College, just a gorgeous song. Jay Bennett, who I talk about all the time, as you know, my dog was named Bennett after Jay Bennett, who passed away in 2009. This is just a tremendous record, a record I listen to regularly. Whenever it comes on like a playlist or anything, I'm just so thrilled because these songs, California, Like a Photograph, School Kid Records, reissued in 2020. And following that reissue was the documentary that I really liked on the life of Jay Bennett. So I think that's on YouTube now. Let's see if I can get the name of it. The story of the musical. Where Are You, Jay Bennett? I think is the name of the movie. And I think it's for free on YouTube. Or buy it and support the director. Last one, this one's obscure. And my guess is most people are not going to know this. This is the soundtrack to the movie A Matter of Degrees. The only reason I knew about this was in the late or the mid 90s, when I was on this like insatiable sort of journey to find everything related to Uncle Tupelo, the bands that preceded, the Primitives, Coffee Creek, all the stuff, I couldn't get enough. And I remember being in college and learning about this soundtrack, and my brother Lane and I would talk about it all the time. I think I saw the movie and it wasn't great, but Max and Wells by Firehose to open, Shadow to You by Giant Sand, 11th Dream Day, Miracle Legion, Yola Tango, The Pixies, Lemonheads, Alex Chilton, Schoolie D, Nova Mob, Miracle Legion, Uncle Tupelo doing the song Won't Forget, and Throwing Muses. This is a great, great soundtrack. I don't even know if it's on streaming services. I found it a few years ago. This was in my last few records that I was looking to find. There's still about 10, and I think I did a video on them. It's Richard Buckner records. Somebody recently mentioned, I think it's right there, Joe Henry's Short Man's Room. That is on my list. So whoever posted that in the comments, thank you. Yes, I love that record. I remember I bought it in Cambridge when I was in college. No, I did not go to school in Cambridge. I did not go to Harvard. Not that anybody thought that. But I did have a good friend at Harvard, so we were over there all the time. Not all the time, but fairly often. And I remember I found this in a record store. It was either on or right off Harvard campus. The Joe Henry record, Short Man's Room. It was when Joe Henry, I think the Jayhawks backed that entire record. Just a fantastic record. So that's 6. Thanks for stopping by. I got a swell of I don't know why I'm always correcting my grammar, of new subs. I don't know where they came from. Maybe it's the algorithm, but thank you for subscribing. Plan on doing more videos in 2024, although I always say that, but hopefully another one coming in the next week. Thanks for stopping by. Take care.